It's a beautiful day for a social impulse video. I'm going to talk about the nature of lights, right? Lights, camera, action. When the lights go on, I go on. That's the nature of who I am. Thank you and welcome to another edition of Guidance for the Soul Live. I want to talk to people about the nature of gaslighting from a social impulse vision, correct? Most people who are of my nature would say, as a soul, we won't condemn any souls for what they do on this plane, correct? It depends on who you are and what perspective you're holding, depending on what value system you honor and if you are indeed of the level of soul. If you're in the vision of all, you know we don't intervene in those visions of love, correct? I'm posting those visions as an awareness campaign because it's rampant in this world. It's rampant in this world. And when you have to see or hear about those that you love and care for that are experiencing those visions of gaslighting, from a societal perspective, it would be just another one of those days, right? How many people are so used to being treated like that, they don't even know the difference between a good day or a bad day? I got that experience handed to me by my guides to show me what it was like for others in my circle. And I said, that is enough. And now I'm starting to come down into that vision of, if you want to put up with the psychological abuse, because that's what it is. From this perspective, I would never, ever expect anyone to go through that kind of vision as a guide or as a soul. What I was getting was the experience of it from someone else's love that I honor as a victim. Okay, this is going to be one of those visions of, do I honor those visions who do the damage to the mindsets of our souls? This is a theme. This idea of looking at someone and either targeting them as less than in some way, shape, or form. You're going to see there's a pattern playing out in Brenda's rules of the road, right? The rules of the road. She's been shamed by people she cares about in so many ways in their mindsets, right? This isn't about telling people to be afraid. What she's honoring are those who are giving her the perspective of their own souls here, who are on the receiving end of it. She knows who's doing the giving out of it as well. I'm honoring that vision of, let me raise my own vibration to a level of, do I step in and call it out? Because I'm getting ready to start taking names. I'm done. This is the nature of that vision of, when people start to do this vision of it's like, who are you working for, right? How many people say, I'd be afraid to go see Brenda because in essence, I know in my heart, I do some of these things to those people. So this is where we would say, your guide will come through, right? Or your soul. Your soul is screaming, you better wise up and start treating people with a little bit more respect and dignity for who they are. If we love our family members, let's remember what that means. People are going to start opening up to the nature of, my family members who are opened up are going to actually hear the words that you say to me, right? Telepathic communication. This is the nature of the future for a lot of people who open up. They start to hear those vibrations of souls that come to them to let them know what their family member or their soul member, their soulmate or whatever is feeling. It's not always pleasant. It depends on what kind of aspect of guidance you're going to go for. So these are those warning messages for those who say, oh yeah, I'm already there. You'd be surprised how many people have those fleeting thoughts. It's not about a fleeting thought. It's about the repetitive nature of psychological manipulation in the brain. I'm going to try to make sure that you feel like you're the one that is always to blame and that you are somehow losing it if you assume that I did or didn't say or do something, and yet in your experience, you're pretty sure that something was or wasn't done in a certain way. That's the nature of it. I'm going to start to make you question your own views, your own mindset. Because I'm having a defense mechanism, soul. Okay. And so I'm not going to sit there and call out names. But that's the impulse that she has sometimes. She's like, I'm going to start handing out. This is that public service announcement for those of you who are like, yeah, I can understand why. If she's starting to hear about the tragedies of gun violence, you might start thinking about it, right? You wouldn't be getting it like that. That's what most people will say. Oh, no, we're going to go so high so we don't have to actually do the work here. See, that's the nature of those who rise to those other levels of understanding. I could just sit and vibrate in the beauty of my soul, right? The beauty of my heart. But I'm tired of people not actually doing the work. This is where a lot of us go, where we say, I can see where the issues are, and I want to make people aware. This is going to be that vision of the rising tide of awareness. That's a theme. Wait for 6 years. That's when most people are expecting a big change to start happening. People are going to be literally inundated with the souls who wake up at that time period. Inundated. And it's not going to be pretty if people don't start doing the work now. You lay down the groundwork for how do I deal with those visions of love who are not honoring of who I am? Watch the explosions come about, right? Does it mean that people are going to start waking up and feeling beautiful and loved and guaranteed, their religious revelations and whatnot? That's where some will go. They will be seen as the end of the world. However, it's not. The rising tide of awareness is when a lot of us actually start to open up to the beauty of who we are on our own. We don't need those visions to tell us who we are. Okay? So I ride the tide of awareness all the time. Sometimes it's just smooth sailing for me. Other times it's a rocky boat, let me tell you. And other times it can feel like a tidal wave. Okay? Depending on what issues I'm working with, and if it involves other people, which it often does, sometimes it doesn't. I have to still deal with people who in their mindsets, based on what they are feeling in the moment, may look at me, call me fat. I deal with those souls from other visions who may throw insults at me. This is about putting on that armor, right? Brenda says, I don't want to put on armor. I want to sit there and have my heart open versus shutting it down. And that's what the majority of people do. When you have people who come at you and start to mess with your mind or insult you over and over, you start to put on that armor to try and protect yourself, or you shut down. I shut down on certain levels when I was younger because I felt like I couldn't deal with the, abuse that I was taking in my own mind based on things that things that I experienced in other realms, let's put it that way. There are people I know who are still crying out for help, but yet won't take those steps to free themselves from those people who continually lob insults at them. Now, what does that mean? If anyone is going to know how to get out of a dangerous situation, usually it's going to be me. What I will do is tell you that the Karpman drama triangle will be your best friend. for most people, it will literally free you from a lot of those destructive relationships that you can let go of them. You can let go of those people. I don't care if they're your family tree. You let go of people that do that vision. If they won't acknowledge that vision, because what it does is it literally puts you in a position where your mind shuts itself down to a point of less than, and it's like I'm no longer worthy. Or it makes you start to question your sanity. Did I say that way? I don't know. I thought I said this. I didn't say this. I know I said that, but someone else is telling me that this is actually what was said or done, and I know different. And the nature of it is very manipulative. They know what they're doing, right? How many people say, I didn't know I was gaslighting people? It's a minor inconvenience for some people who are able to say, oh, that's that vision. That's who they are. There's some people now who are dealing with it by just saying, oh, that's who they are, and I'm just going to observe it. That's a kind of weird, higher spiritual paradigm of like, I can just, be absolved of all, energy around me. Most people in this plane would find it very difficult to continually be bombarded with that type of energy and not have it affect their hearts, right? Especially if it's someone that we care about. If I already know someone who I had to discard from my life, literally because of the kind of negative energy that was being placed on me and from various levels of understanding. I'll stand up to anybody at this point who dares come at me with their negative mindset about who I am. It doesn't mean I will come at you to create havoc, but I will stand and I will deliver, and I say, you're treating me bad. You need to think about what that means. I can have an honest conversation. See, this is the dynamic. Are we able to sit down and have a conversation about, this is who I am, this is who you are, maybe we don't agree on something, but are you labeling me as something bad? Or are you telling me that there's something wrong with me based on who I am? Now, if you're in a soul session, your soul's going to give you some other kind of experience of what might be going on. But for these types of videos, what's really going on is your soul is saying, I can't handle being wrong. I can't handle being hurtful, right? Because a lot of times these visions will come back and say, you're hurting me. And it's more like I deflect. I dodge the bullet. I don't want to deal with the issue. I'm going to shut it down before we get into an honest conversation about how we as a couple or as a friendship or as it could be a boss, employee dynamic, that gets a little bit more tricky. And we want to honor all those visions. But at some point, you need to, in your mindset, say, I need to put my foot down when it comes to how people treat me, either on the job or on, in my friendships. A lot of people are going to wake up, and this usually happens when it can happen when you're younger. A lot of younger people are very much getting more aware of these things that are not healthy for them. And they'll tend to go, that's it, I'm done, right? There's too many people that are being conditioned to do that kind of, work, because it's work. Unwinding the mindset of a destructive personality disorder, right? Your own soul wouldn't say it in that way, but they would say these are the souls who come here to show us other versions of who we think we are. Until we can rise above that vision, embrace the beauty of who we are, and either say it's not going to hit me the way that they try to land those punches, because it's almost that bad on the mental soul. It literally took me down into a place of despair of sorts, of what that sounded like for people. Okay. That's why I'm like, man, you get me outside of guidance mode, I am going to take you to task for that kind of vision. I will hand you a sheet. You will become aware of your behavior. And then what is expected? Either you make the changes to your heart, or you're going to be handed your hat. That's the nature of who I am. I don't attract that into my life because people know who I am. Most people would assume I'm very gentle and kind and would just let people walk on me. That's absolutely not the case. And anyone who's very close with me knows that I basically will come with that vision of psychology. I will call it for what it is. And I will say, you need to look at what's going on. This isn't correct. Or we need to work on something, in our dynamic, right? Something's going on in our dynamic, maybe as a couple. What am I saying that's triggering you, right? Don't be blaming the victim. Okay, if I'm just doing my thing and someone does, see, it's the disparity between visions sometimes. You have this vision of what's healthy, I don't, right? Well, once you hit those psychological, diagnostic manuals, you might want to take a look. I'm not one for telling people they've got issues. It will scare people, but people need to be aware of it. It literally is the way in which most people make their way to the rising levels of self-love. That's what starts to wake you up to those visions of higher level understanding, right? Most people don't hear about that vision in those books of faith. It's about treating people, with kindness and love. Well, okay. How many people are in that vision of, Brenda's always like golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. And, she has her own struggles sometimes. And in essence, she's like, I confront my own demons. Okay. My guides will let me know when I'm doing something that's wrong. Okay. And that's what that whole idea of shadow work is. I don't have demons as in, scary monsters or whatnot. So what I want to say is that for those of you who are afraid of reading my post, that's a good sign. If you're afraid to read about who is, I'm not going to call out names on Facebook. I would be most likely to send people private messages or emails with that kind of stuff. If it's that severe and a soul's coming to me saying you need to reach out to this soul, because that's what happens sometimes. And I got out of a lot of that with that idea of the Karpman drama triangle, because I was like, I'm not going to rescue everybody, but I do go to those who are basically saying I'm in tragedy mode, because it's almost like you get numbed to the beatings. Numbed to the beatings. That's the same kind of vision. It's just on a mental level versus the heart's always there. We're not killing people with our minds, are we? How many people have to deal with those thoughts? If you're a channel for the soul, I could bring through very few souls at this point who are afraid to do work with me because they honor that vision of I'm here to help. I'm not here to shame people. I would never do that, to be honest. But when I say calling names, or calling out names. It means to guide people to that vision of love. So that's why I would pass on a vision of a psychological nature, because also within the vision of guidance, I know that the majority of the souls will start to rise and open up to the nature in their awakening process. They will either need a therapist or some kind of visionary to help them through that process of deconditioning from either some of those psychological conditions that they have been labeled with, or do they need those helpers to help them either leave those relationships that are no longer good for them, or to confront those relationships that they can't leave, right? Maybe it means we have to take a break. Maybe it means we need to just, sit down and have some one-on-ones. Maybe we both need to go to therapy. Maybe we both need to open up to the nature of love for our family, and say, my family member is one of those people. I'm sorry you treat people like dirt. I'm not going to be a witness to it anymore. That might open up their eyes to how they treat people. I had to do some of that vision for myself at one point with one of the most loving, caring people I know. Okay. Now, for those of you who say, I don't do this, I don't know anyone who does this, thank goodness. You're good to go, right? That's probably one of the biggest problems we're seeing outside of the gun violence issues that are plaguing this country. Other nations obviously have their own issues with certain things. Many people don't want to deal with the visions that we have to deal with Brenda on that vision. It is literally felt like it is a repetitive strike against many to hear constant gunshots going off, right? She doesn't get them all the time, but it has been a barrage over the last couple of months. And this is another sideline to those visions of those who would say, I'm going to throw shit at you now because you're dealing with an issue that I'm so conditioned in that we can't change anything in our bylaws, right? Are we only supposed to tackle one issue? No, of course not. This is the vision of, let's not stick our head in the sand when it comes to the nature of gun violence. Okay, and it doesn't mean people are saying take all our weapons away, but that's unfortunately where the majority of the people start to fear. They go from one extreme to another. Are you going to be taking your weapons with you into the afterlife? It could be interesting, right? How many people are trying to open up to the nature of love and adoration for all, and yet they're still confronting those visions of love here on this plane? So a lot of people who open up to the nature of vibration and whatnot are wondering, why am I in this vibration where I'm not, connecting with my own hearts or my own souls or whatnot? You might be dealing the death blows to people in your mind. Right? How many people understand that conflict? Thou shalt not kill, yet I have a weapon, and I will do so if I need to. Right? That issue is going to keep coming up for a lot of people because, in essence, your soul will say, you're good, don't worry about it, if you need self-protection and whatnot. But are people actually living by those rules? It's okay. And it's a soul-by-soul case. This is not about the destruction of the Second Amendment. Oh my gosh. I could go there. Hello. This is the nature of her. She's so tired of people saying they want to take all of our guns. Can you open your ears, please? This is not about taking guns, okay? It's about certain types of bullets and the weapons that can lodge them into the body of a child. And that's it. right? The children of the world are the children no matter if they are 10, 20, 30, or 80. So you see, how we look at children is always much different than those adults that we claim that doesn't matter as much if they're the ones being killed. Yet they are the children of us. As guides, I'll come through with that vision of those who claim they will not kill anybody. I hope you have that vision very strong in your psyche. Most people will say, I'll die for my country, right? I have that vision. Those souls will rise to another level of understanding at some point. Don't do that vision of I'm living by 10 commandments and then you go sign up to be a, military member, right? You'll be fine. You're just setting yourself up for a little bit of conflict when you go meet with your soul. But in essence, it's not going to be the most pleasant for you here because you would keep hearing the disconnect in the mindsets. Okay? Now, back to man. Oh man, is that going to get people angry? Why? Do I live by the laws of the land or the laws of my book? These are the destructive natures of love, right? So some people say, that's making me feel bad. I don't like it. It's not about making you feel bad. It's about pointing out how we create with our minds and our hearts. So our hearts are saying, it's okay to have a disconnect. We all do. We all have these things where we say one thing and do another, right? Or we believe one thing and then we kind of let things go. That's not the issue. The issue is when you say, stand and deliver. Do you want to know what the highest vision of love is for a soldier? She gets the support of them because she understands. I'm not trying to tell people not to carry their weapons or not to have fun, hunting. If you're in the spiritual mindset, you're going to start thinking very different about souls. She gets pet mind and animal mind. What does that tell you? You're killing those souls, right? We have agreements with certain species about how to deal with our food supply and all of that. But in essence, do you want to go to that vision? Okay, so the nature of love for all souls is not just human souls. How many would treat their animals better than their own visions of love? Okay. So a lot of them, we call them our fur babies or whatnot. And yet we're willing to go kill these other animals, right? But we have laws against those that are hurting their pets. People are going to start to go, oh no, does Brenda eat meat anymore? I do. I don't enjoy those visions that get brought to me in that vision, by the way. But I will say that I understand that even people I know will say, I say a prayer for those souls that are sacrificing of their meat to help keep me and my family in the, health and vision of protein and iron and whatnot. I don't do those blessings. It's just understood that I know about it, okay? But that's not me. I don't tend to go to that kind of understanding as of yet, okay? Now, I want to honor the visions of those who are saying some of these videos are a little lackluster. It's true. There was a struggle in my mindset with 2 or 3 souls of souls because those souls are here living. And the visions were very much in alignment with those ideas of I'm going to try to take her to a level of shame so she understands where they are here, and yet she was listening to their music, right? Or something like that. Most of the people know I did have a vision of a celebrity who at one point opened up the discussion about why she took their video off. She literally had one of the biggest stars in the music world come through with a beautiful vision. On another plane of understanding, he violated trust with her, and she said, "That's it, I'm done, your video's gone." That's why no one else is going to come through, whoever they know that their vision of love for all souls will be diminished. She's not going to say who it is, but she will say that vision in a public post, most likely on her website. She doesn't want to do it on the video screen, but she has the proof of it. That's the whole thing, right? She has the proof of the beauty of the soul, but in essence, does she have proof of what that vision was in another plane? No, she does not. Okay? And it's a personal thing. As a guide, sometimes she does deal with soul births. This is one of them. You start to open up and you come clean. It's not about coming clean. There's nothing that I did wrong. I had no idea what was coming, right? So why is my soul experiencing X, Y, or Z? I'm not doing this vision in the form of let me be protected from any and every little thing. So some things that other people would say that was the time of my life, I would have said, oh no, not for me. Don't disrespect me. That's my vision. So even if I feel like I'm being disrespected, it depends. I mean, I can expect people who watch videos and whatnot to, have their opinions. Okay. But at some point, well, I just don't have people disrespect me for long. You will not be around me. Guaranteed. I will not visit you. I will not see you. You will be done. I will give you a lot of chances. But at this point, my time and my energy and my love is too sacred for me to put so much effort into maintaining relationships with people who treat people like garbage. And that's defined in whatever way. You know if you're treating people like crap. Okay, we all have our issues. It's especially harder with people that we're close to because we tend to let our guard down and we might be more like angry. Like I show my anger with my family, whereas no one else I really know would ever see my anger, unless I'm triggered by some kind of issue or something, then they might see some anger, but not in that kind of like, blah kind of way. Okay. Now, we're going to stop and we're going to say thank you for watching the public service announcement messages. That's all it was a vibrating of love from my heart to another soul who said, I need you to step in and end the abuse of this mindset. You see, there are those visions of love eternal on the other line. But at some point, those vibrations do indeed break away in this plane. They may reunite on another plane of love ever after, right? But if this plane is too hard for them, do you think they're going to rise in vibration over there? I have to lift up my spirits, smile, laugh, have fun. That's what most people want to see. They want to see the beautiful expressions of love and not these detrimental visions, because it might actually mean we need to take a look at our own hearts. Sometimes I do. And we have to say, I'm sorry, I hurt your feelings. So for those of you that have ever felt slighted by me, I would say, depending on what it is, I'm not going to apologize for much if I'm in guidance mode. You won't get an apology. I'm not going to apologize for any of those visions. I'm done with that. I used to apologize for everything. Oh, I'm sorry, I triggered you. Well, maybe you got something you need to look at. That's the way it is. That's what I do. When I get triggered, I go, what is going on with me? Unless it's with my kids where I'm like, like, okay, we know why teenagers may trigger us. But even then, I should go in and say, what's going on? Because it could be something like, oh, why am I so worried about their vision of what a good grade is versus my vision? Or why am I so worried about where they're at and their mindset or whatnot, right? Same thing with our family and friends. If my family's triggering me, I need to look in and go, why? And is it true? Are they just saying something, about them? Or are they coming at me with something that needs to be addressed? 20 to 30 years it takes before most people will get to the point of, I have to have honest communication with my family tree. And I have to say, this is not okay. I love you. This is not okay. This vision is not okay that you have, that I can be the insult warrior. There are people who throw down the insults left and right. I see the beauty of people, but at the same time, I can't watch people just tear people apart, right? And when I say that, sometimes those visions of relationships that have gone asunder, they do need to end. If you can't get your vision together, where you're like, I need to be able to have a place in my house that is safe from people. That's where some people I know are. I have a safe place. What does that tell you about their mindset? Okay. We're not talking about, I have my own little place to decompress and just unwind and relax. Why can't you unwind and relax in some other place in your house? What's going on there? Okay. These are those natures. Okay. And it doesn't mean it's tragedy for everyone involved. Sometimes all we need is a little bit of a switch to click in to kind of go, yeah, maybe I need to adjust my vision a little bit so that I'm not projecting as much, of that anger energy out at my loved ones. Maybe I'm having a bad day, at the office or whatever. Those are those situations that are like, okay, maybe that happened every once in a while or something. But if it gets there every day where you're sitting there going, and you're just spouting out, you need to go in and say, what's going on? And why do I feel like, why would I do that to my loved one? If I'm not going to do that with my friends or my family, right? Like maybe it's like, your mother or your father, right? Who knows what people do? But if you wouldn't do it with your friends, why do we do that with our loved ones? We feel safe in that relationship that they aren't going to leave, right? That's what you need to go for. Why am I treating my friends one way and my loved ones differently? That's what we really have to do. And there is that nature of acceptance and love. Love doesn't have to hurt. People have to get over that vision that, I love you, but you hurt me all the time. That's wrong. That means the power, it's like the power grid is going to go up. People want to know, how do I disengage from family tree members that trigger me, but I know that they love me? How would you define love? Okay. It's a one-on-one session that would go more for that kind of vision of, I have people who I am riding that wave with, right? We're equal, right? We kind of go like this. There are others in our family tree who push us to the nth degree with their vision of, oh, I'm just that way, and you can take it or leave it, right? We were going to say, take this blank and shove it, right? There's some people, if your job is that miserable with your boss, you need to leave. Try what you can. Don't just put up with it. You need to try and find another job. It can affect your health. It's your mental well-being that we're looking out for. It's your mental well-being that is so strong and so vital to those of you who are trying to lift yourselves up. You might be in a relationship that has been done for 10 to 20 years. And you say, I know. And it does affect me, but my heart's still connected. Are you sure it's your heart and not that sense of fear? In most cases, a lot of it is, I am secure in our ability to come together as friends, or maybe it's just we own the same properties together. We don't want to split up everything. Or maybe we don't want to, divorce, or maybe we don't want to split up, or what, depending on what kind of relationship it is. If it's a family tree member, maybe it's those expectations that were put upon us that we have to go and visit these people every so often. No, you don't. No, you don't. People need to get that vision of obligation out of their mindset. It sets up a dynamic of being less than. I'm obligated to you because why? Because my mom or my grandma told me, or my grandfather or somebody told me that this is the way the world works. We all have to get together on certain holidays. Why? We're not out in the tribal plains requiring that vision in order to survive, are we? Because that's that kind of mindset, right? They can be your biggest supporters. If you're receiving the love back, that's fine. But if they're causing havoc in your heart and your mind and treating you like dirt, no. You do not have to, and you are no longer obligated to sit there and go spend time with people that come at you. And that there's a difference between, well, we don't get along. So we just kind of hang out in different parts of the house or whatever, versus fighting like cats and dogs, hating on each other, backstabbing each other, that kind of stuff, right? That kind of stuff sets up a lot of bad, people would call it juju, okay? We used to say it's bad juju, but it's not juju. You would be surprised. Some people will come together over funerals and start to kind of, reconnect a little bit. And others will say this is the time when those nasty things come out. People finally say, fine, mom's done. She's gone. Now we don't have to visit with you anymore. You'd be surprised. And again, it depends on what kind of life you're looking for. Are you looking for the beauty of rising to another level of understanding? Most of it is trying to take yourself out of the vision of I'm a victim. If you are not being lobbed at all the time, right? It depends. If I had someone who came at me once a month and said, you're a nutcase, and they were serious, I would say, adios, right? Even though it was only every once in a while. I would be able to let that go. Maybe I don't know. You wouldn't be able to last with her psychology that would come out about people calling people names. And she knows a lot of people accept that as part of life, but she's very strong in that vision of words are very powerful. However, love conquers all, and that's the love of your soul, first and foremost. That's you, embodied, loving yourself fiercely, saying, I don't deserve to be treated like dirt. Honor that vision, honor that soul that's saying to those souls who are crying out in their minds, I need help. I just don't want to do the work. That's what that is. And that's when we would say, call out to me. I'll come to you, and we will guide each other in that vision of soul session. And we will say, let's take it one step at a time. You can do it. I know you can. I honor your vision. I honor your fear. I honor your hearts. Always. I will not lead you astray. You will always rise in your vision when you go to the vision of soul. Love yourselves fiercely. Take care. Have a great day. And for those of you that are in the vision of a religious faith, amen. Good night.